On our show today, we have two very special guests. We have Olivia and Tara, and I'm going to have them tell you their last names in a second. They are both Wellesley High School students, seniors. Are you both seniors?
Yes, we're both
seniors. And they are part of the organizing and leadership group for the Wellesley High School Walkout. So welcome. Thank you for coming on today and talking about this very important issue. So I'm going to start off by asking you ladies, how did this all happen?
So basically, I'm a senior at the high school, and over February break, we heard about the Florida shooting. And one of my classmates contacted me and said, do you know if the school's doing anything? And I said, I'm not sure. And he said, I think we should do this. This was Jack Canham, a senior as well. And we decided, the two of us, to go to our principal once we got done with break and asked him, has anything happened? We think there should be a group. And he told us that already 6 different groups of people had emailed him, and that there were all these different groups having these individual thoughts of there should be a walkout. So from that, there was an initial planning meeting on a Tuesday after school where 50 kids showed up, and we just started planning the details of this walkout. But it really did start off with a bunch of individual ideas, and then everyone had to come together.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't one of the people who emailed the principal. I was just going to go put up posters by myself. I guess I didn't really think that this school authority figures should be involved. But then I went to this meeting and I realized that it was really they had to at least know what was happening.
And I think that was something that the school was great about. My whole thing the entire time was, if the school's going to work with us and just be very reasonable, then why not have them as one of our partners? So they were just talking to us about safety issues, but it was really great at that first meeting. We had freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and freshmen who were really participating. So it wasn't just a senior-led movement. It was people who were 14 years old who thought this was just as much of an issue as an 18-year-old.
Wow, that's awesome. And tell me your last names, both of you. Go.
I'm Olivia Eburn.
And Tara Snapper.
Sounds good. Wow. So this is, would you say that this was, either of you personally were inspired by Emma Gonzalez in Florida?
Yeah, I would say she's a big reason. She's the main reason that I chose to stand up and speak out against this. I watched her speech. I don't remember what, it was the one.
We Call BS.
Yes, We Call BS, that's it. And she was just so passionate about this, and it really opened up my eyes to how this directly affected people, and it wasn't just a distant thing. So
I think for me going into it, what Emma Gonzalez's speech and her approach to this whole post-shooting drama made me realize that this walkout couldn't just be for the safety of school students and for to commemorate those people who died, which of course that was very, very important, but it had to call on gun control, and it had to call on our legislators. And in the beginning of the meeting, that was kind of a hesitation that a lot of people had. People were saying, oh, we don't want to divide the school, it's really important to stay united. But then we voted, okay, do you think we should say gun reform is part of this walkout? And 52 people out of the 54 raised their hands. And it was also part of the National Women's March walkout who started this. So we decided that this was really, really important. And I think that that idea came from Emma Gonzalez.
Yeah. That's definitely how both of you would feel as well.
Yes,
about gun control.
Yeah.
Do you want to share some thoughts on that whole? It's a complicated issue, especially for high schoolers, but you two are clearly thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big issue, and I mean, it's hard to really get into it, but I think the important thing is that right now it is way too easy just to buy guns in America. And I really think that that's one of the reasons all of these school shootings are happening. It's not because the kid is just mentally ill, which he is, but it's also it's just so easy to go out and buy a gun, and that's a huge problem.
And I think that can also be fixed with common sense gun laws, and that was something that Emma Gonzalez spoke about, and we both spoke about in our speeches at the walkout. there's not universal background checks for every state. And we're really lucky to live in Massachusetts, which is a state with some of the strictest gun laws, but that doesn't prevent someone from going to New Hampshire and Maine, states that don't require gun laws, and at gun shows and then bringing guns back to our state. So I think it was an example where we could take this tangible thing and say, okay, go call your legislators, tell them to vote for this legislation, and then take that further, and not just okay, we're walking out now and that's it.
And so do you think that, how many people spoke at the walkout? Was it, how many students?
Well, both of us gave speeches at the walkout, and then we had about 5 students read off statements, just giving a reason, just like stating the reason that they walked out, and like.
Right.
So it came to like 9 speakers, a couple girls introduced. There was 5 people who gave their statements. We had 5 people, 1 from each class, listing the 17 names. That was a big part of the walkout and something that was really important. And then 2 people closed.
Nice. And was anyone afraid to go up there and make a speech? And there's a lot of people there.
Yeah,
right?
We actually had one of the people who was going to read their statements. They canceled the morning of, so we had to find somebody else to give a statement. But I think it is pretty intimidating to go up. Yeah.
And seeing the photos, it really seemed like a large turnout. It's like a lot of people. The entire parking lot was filled.
Yeah, it definitely was a majority of the school, and it was, I think some classes had no students that were left, and some classes had, I think my math class had like 7 people, and I think that was also something very interesting. It wasn't unanimous, but I think with those big numbers, a struggle that came was sound. Like not everyone could hear, which I think really, although it might seem like a small issue, half the group couldn't hear what we were saying, half the group were confused, and I think sometimes that does happen with a student-led movement because we weren't going to ask and the administration and they weren't going to give like us mics. So you can't have something go flawlessly.
That's very true, and this is also good training for when both of you get to Congress. And now you know that you must get a microphone ahead of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
See, you would not have known that.
We did have a microphone, it just wasn't loud
Wasn't
enough.
working.
Yeah, it only reached like half the way back, and then
But that's still like 300 kids, and I think that's what's really amazing.
It's a big deal.
is
That's
we
quite
did,
an accomplishment. Right.
yeah. I
Absolutely.
mean, it's important to get our message out there. And
Right. And so give us a quick summary of your speeches for those of us who missed it.
Do you want to go first? Because you
Sure.
went first in the...
I did. What did I speak about? I spoke about the NRA and how they are using their lobbyists to push ridiculous gun laws, especially in Florida. They have this one bill going now. It's I can't quite remember the name of it, but it would allow for other states concealed carry permits
Concealed
to
carry reciprocity.
That's it.
Yeah.
Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. It would allow other states' concealed carry permits to carry over into states that may have stricter permits. And so that would mean that if it's really difficult to get a concealed carry permit in Massachusetts, you could just go to New Hampshire, get one
It's super
like
scary.
that,
It's like
and
a
then
really
bring
scary
it
piece
back
of
into
legislation.
And so I kind of talked about that and how the NRA is changing the conversation to like more personal carry versus
Having guns out there at all.
yeah.
Right.
In my speech, I talked a lot about, so first I kind of described how my connection to school shootings has become closer and closer from just once reading it on the news and being like, oh, that's sad, but now having friends in Florida and having friends who live 15 minutes away from the school who did know people who saw a school shooter come into their school, and that really makes it different for us. And also we both talked about a little bit the incident at the middle school, which said, are we next?
That's I kind of finished my speech with that.
Yeah.
How somebody spray painted "Are we next?" onto the courtyard, and
what's your feeling about that? Do you think it was a scared kid who did it?
I think so. I think it was an act of fear. When it initially happened, the school thought it was like a threat, but I think it was more just somebody stating how these events that have occurred have just made them feel unsafe.
And I think what's really sad about that for me as a 12-year-old is seeing that. Like I babysat someone this past weekend, and he's in 6th grade, and he
knew all about it?
just he mentioned it really randomly. He just brought it up and said, "Did you hear about this?" And I was like, I feel so sad for you. But what I brought up a lot in my speech was the fact that I think this issue of gun control and gun reform really shouldn't be bipartisan, and it should have never really been this like political huge issue where it created divides in our community, and it should have just been a common sense act of empathy. And so I talked about that a lot because I feel like sometimes at Wellesley High School people have issues understanding other people's opinions and are instead ready to lash out. So, and then I kind of did a call for action like Olivia and said that the extreme ERPO, the Extreme Risk Protective Order right now is in Massachusetts State House, and it's being voted on. So family members, household members, and law enforcement can have a temporary removal of guns to someone who's shown personal or public endangerment. And I think I told people that they should call their legislators and Alice Peisch and people who represent our area and say, I really think you should co-sponsor this. And then the following day I posted example phone scripts so people know what to say. So I think it's really, our goal wasn't for this walkout to just walk out and stop there, because at the end of the day, that doesn't really do anything. That doesn't change the laws. That's not going to save lives. Sure, it creates awareness, which is super, super important, but it's really about the next step.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I was just going to ask you, did you meet your expectations for the walkout, and what are your next steps? So that's great. And did you meet the expectations for the walkout? Were you satisfied with the way it turned out?
I'd say we kind of like exceeded expectations. It went really smoothly. We finished on time. The only problem was it was a little bit windy.
Right.
Yeah, I would say wind and sound really was a disappointment for me personally. I think it's really hard for me to hear that someone went outside because they really cared about the issue and then couldn't hear.
Right.
And well, there were students who were like pulling up the live stream on the Bradford, but it was a disappointment.
But at the end of the day, the fact that we did hit that first third of people, and that was 300 people, and people reached out to me and said, wow, Tara, like I really appreciate you and the group who did this because it didn't split the school apart. It brought awareness to the issue. And I think that really having people come and reach out to me and just hearing conversations the hallway after is what made me the most satisfied, because it showed that this conversation wasn't going to end with a walkout, which I believe is the most important.
Right.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you, ladies, for sharing. Would you like to add anything else to that in terms of next steps? And I think you mentioned a few. And if any other comments you want to add?
I'd say one of the next steps is going to the March for Our Lives this Saturday, because it's a march on the Boston Common, I believe, to protest the gun laws.
Do you remember the timing of when that?
Yeah, so the march starts, there's going to be a gathering from 10 to 11, and then at 11 the march, I forget what the starting point is, but then people are going to march to Boston Commons. There's 51,000 people on the Facebook event who say they're interested. 13,000 say they're going.
Just show up at the Commons.
Exactly.
So you don't have to do
and
the full march.
And if you want to look it up on Facebook, what's it under? Is it just
March for Our Lives Boston?
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, so that people will know where to plug into for that. Well, thank you so much.
No problem.
So impressive.
Thank you for having us.
you.
So happy you ladies were able to come on today and share your thoughts.
I mean, us too, yeah.
So impressive. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.